911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? So good to see you. Hey, Maria. How are you, my dear? Hi, John. Good to see both of you. Hey, Angela. Hey, Melissa. Hi, Allie. Glad you're here with us. Hi, Angela Patrick. Sorry. Don't have my glasses on. Hey, Never Silent. How are you? Hold on one second, you guys. I just want to go in and check something real quick. So just give me 1 second here. Okay, we're good. I just wanted to check a couple of things on the stream to make sure that I had things set the way I wanted them. So I hope everybody is having a good week leading up to Christmas and the holidays and Hanukkah and all of our holidays that are coming fast and furious. They'll be here before we know it. I told my grandson this morning that Christmas was just right around the corner and he wants Christmas tomorrow. So that's a 5-year-old for you. So sorry. My nose is going to be bothering me. So let's see. Yes, John. I think I'm just about done. I have a couple of little things left to do, and then I will have all of my stuff done. And then it's just about getting ready to get it all wrapped and put together because I have to take it with me to my daughters. We don't celebrate it here at the house anymore. We celebrate it at her house. It's just easier. There's more of them, and um, so it's just an easier thing. And I tend to spend that entire like 4 days we spend together. It's like cooking and food and family and games. We love to play games at Christmas over the holidays. We're a gaming family, so that's kind of fun too. But um, never silent. I am so glad that you're feeling better. That energy level and tiredness lasted a month for me when I had it in October. So yeah, it's not fun. And right now my daughter has it, her husband has it, and my oldest grandson has it. So they are on the mend. They're starting to all feel better. Thank goodness they were all boosted because I think it helped them have a less of a battle with it or whatever. So didn't seem to, even with the asthmatics that are in the family, they seem to bypass that bullet, which is good. So there's a lot going on in the true crime world. And yeah, yeah, Melissa, we are definitely a gaming family. We like to play games and all different kinds. So it'll be interesting to see what games are given this year as presents. Because, yes, hey, Mary, welcome, my dear. Um, it's just always fun to see what games we get. um, there's one that we played last year, Hunt a Killer. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. It was really good. I mean, that game it's kind of expensive, but man, it has everything you need to, I mean, it makes you an investigator into an actual crime. I mean, you get maps and you get evidence and you get pictures and of crime scenes, and I mean, it's just incredible. And then you have to figure out the case. It's pretty cool. It was very fun to play. Hey Pigeon Mac, how are you? Good to see you guys all here. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to yawn. I did not get my nap in today, and I should have because I am tired. Oh, Angela, it's worth it. I'm serious. We had so much fun with it. Hey, Louisa, how are you? um, so let's see. Hey, Thistle do nicely. Good to see you. Hey, Verbal Judo, how are you? Hey, Paris. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope that we did get our first snow today. We had a ton of rain over the last couple of days. Last night was incredible, the amount of rain that we got. We got so much rain, and it changed overnight to snow. So we woke up this morning with snow on the ground. Not a lot, but just enough to know that it snowed. With, it covered all the grass and stuff like that. So good, Louisa. I'm so glad that you're feeling better. Hey, Salty Beach. How are you? So, anyway, I really miss snow. We used to always have a white Christmas in Central Illinois, but over the last 10, even 15 years, with the global warming and the way climates are changing, it seems that we don't get as cold and we don't get as much snow as we did when I was growing up here. We would get snow in November and it would stay on the ground until March, sometimes April. Um, and we don't have that at all anymore. And I don't know. I guess I'm just a crazy romantic kind of person because I absolutely love a white Christmas. Hey Steve, how are you? So good to see you and Mrs. Steve. um and I thought that, Salty Beach, I lived in Arizona, went to school down there, and the my daughter was born in Tucson, and we lived there for a while, and I loved it. Absolutely love Tucson. Love the desert, love everything about it, but I missed the snow. And it was funny because Mount Lemon is right outside of Tucson and you can get snow in Mount Lemon. So if you really wanted it, you could always go up there and get the snow, but it still wasn't the same as having it all over the streets and all over everywhere. And I with that mixed with Christmas lights and the music and the sound of Christmas, it's just something that I love. Um, so I remember our first Christmas in Tucson. It was 75 degrees, and we ate outside on picnic tables, Christmas dinner, so with friends. And it was like, what are we doing? That had never happened before in my life. Um, and It was, oh my God, I loved it there. I absolutely loved it there. I just can't say enough about it. But anyway, um, hi Lightning, how are you? Good to see you. Hey Polygraph, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you guys all stopped in tonight. It's going to be an interesting conversation. I hope that I can give you some education a little bit on the topic tonight on how common are men who do prey on our children. I think that, I've covered this topic before in different lives, and also I did a video about it. But I think that it seems like every time you turn around, you're hearing about another person who's been arrested for this crime. You've heard, you get every time you turn around, it's a person who was either got arrested trying to meet a child in person, a, a person who was looking at images of children on the internet. Um, Very disturbing, no matter what. And I just wanted to kind of see and go through this again to see where we are with how common this is. And is this a motive for the Delphi murders? Is Richard Allen one of these men who has this secret life that no one ever knows about? And True Crime Maria got me started watching Predator Catchers. I didn't really know about him much until she and I became close friends, and she started telling me about some of these um places you could go on YouTube and other places to watch these. And man, it's absolutely scary and just sick. And I found some really disturbing information. One of the first things that I wanted to talk about was how the media portrays individuals who are engaging in material that is depicting CSAM, because one of the things that we need to understand as we are learning about this topic is that the media is a very powerful source of all kinds of things. The media can be good and the media can do bad. It's a double-edged sword. And the media has a very powerful ability to shape public relations and public perceptions on all kinds of topics. And I think that when we examine this, we can see that over time in all different kinds of ways, whether it be politics or religion or any kind of polarizing type of topic. The media has a very strong, powerful ability to sway people's opinions and perceptions. So let's see. Given the current disjuncture between the social attitudes and the law in relationship to child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, it is important to explore the representation of CSAM offenders in the media. I looked at a study that was specific to this, and to see how these offenders are identified and depicted in print media. So newspaper articles published from August 1st, 2019 to August 31st, 2020 on CSAM offenders in Western countries is the ones that were searched. A qualitative content analysis was performed, and it revealed 3 themes across 56 articles. The headings of these articles downplayed the abusive offending. Offenders' motivations indicate heterogeneity in offending, and sentencing remarks communicated denunciation and the harms denunciation and the harms of offending. While the first theme identified that there is still space for improvement in the reporting of these crimes, the second theme indicates the various motivations portrayed should assist the public in helping to identify that these offenders are heterogeneous in their motivations, and thus potentially countering some previously held stereotypes about these offenders. Finally, this word is crazy. Finally, the denunciation and the harms taken from the messages delivered by the judiciary in the sentencing remarks could offer a positive educational tool for some members of the public. These findings should be valuable for the media, for law enforcement, and for the psychology disciplines. Sadly, not all members of the public consider CSAM a serious crime. Some members of the public may question whether CSAM offenses are regarded as a serious criminality in a modern and permissive society. In fact, research has found that some disjuncture between social attitudes and law in relation to CSAM. While prior research has explored the messages disseminated to the public in relation to CSAM offending via authorized spokespersons, for example, the judiciary, who censure crime, little research has explored the messages disseminated through the media on CSAM offending. And as the media has the powerful ability to shape public perceptions, it is therefore imperative to explore the representation of CSAM offenders in our media. And this study is what it's set out to do. These findings should be a valuable resource for everyone. The CSAM industry has absolutely rapidly increased throughout history, with the material that's produced exploiting children through many means, including physical and sexual abuse. This rapid increase is partly due to technological advances, enhancing one's ability to produce and access and distribute this material. In particular, the internet is an influential factor in the enablement of accessing and distributing this content, as the internet is easy to access, it's affordable, and it provides anonymity. And it's referred to as the AAA engine. The proliferation of the CSAM industry has also seen a rise during the COVID-19 pandemic due to travel and contact restrictions, and the number of clients and market will likely continue to increase in the very near future. And the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation feels that it's going to just continue to get worse. While CSAM offenders are a heterogeneous offending group, they appear to hold a few key psychological and demographic characteristics. Compared with contact child sexual offenders, CSAM offenders tend to have fewer cognitive distortions. They have less emotional identification with children and higher rates of victim empathy and deviant sexual interests. In terms of demographic characteristics between these offenders, they are more likely to be the racial majority and younger than contact child sexual offenders. Compared with mixed, both the contact offender as well as the CSAM offender, they are more likely to be in professional employment, and they are far more educated. And that in itself is scary, because I think we've all talked about this. These individuals are everywhere. They are in every kind of profession you can imagine. These are not what you would consider the old creepy guy down the street that, doesn't really work much, or, doesn't seem to be very intelligent or whatever. That's not the case. These guys don't hide in the darkness in the alley and prey on your children. These people have professional jobs, and sometimes they're preying on your children from their job. In terms of CSAM victims, female children and adolescents are at a significantly higher risk of attracting these types of offenders than their male counterparts. CSAM victims are often exposed to physical and sexual harm during the production, which can lead to future psychological ramifications, as the victims can see themselves in the way that they are representative in the abusive content. In addition to the abusive event, victims of CSAM can endure ongoing pain and trauma well into the future. And the permanent record of the abuse continues to victimize these children every time the material is consumed. Child victims of CSAM offenses have their rights to life, liberty, and security undermined, which can also cause physical and psychological harm. And you know what? One of the things that I found when I was researching all of this was that you wouldn't believe the number of parents that are doing this to their own children. They're making content utilizing their own children. It's just getting ridiculous. Hey, Fusa, how are you? Good to see you. The public is dependent on the media to receive a substantial proportion of their information. So the mass media is empowering. It has a significant influence on society's understanding and opinion of CSAM offenders. Not only can the misconstruction of certain types of offenses through the media marginalize these victims, but it can obstruct victims from reporting the offenses. Beyond victims, public perceptions are also integral to the reintegration and rehabilitation outcomes of CSAM offenders due to labeling theory, which results in social, economic, and psychological consequences of the offenders. Despite some negative impacts that the media can have, there are some positive impacts. For instance, the media can be utilized as a preventative strategy to deter offenders. The publicization of arrests and sentences in the media can detour some offenders. It does work. But given the media's powerful ability to shape public perceptions and the current disjuncture between social attitudes and the law in relation to CSAM, it is therefore imperative to explore the representation of CSAM offenders in the media. And furthermore, there has been calls in research to examine media reporting of CSAM and in particular, the sentencing of these offenders. To the people who did the study, no study to date has explored the portrayal of male CSAM offenders in the print media. The aim of this, of this study was to do just that. So they did a keyword search that was conducted by the authors of the study using the sampling frame of 1st of August 2019 to the 31st of August 2020. And they did this on the EBSCO server. This sampling frame allowed for the most up-to-date sample of articles. Search terms were also used: child pornography or child porn, or child exploitation material, or child sexual exploitation material, or porn, or child sexual abuse material. These words were all used. Even kiddie porn was included. Inclusion criteria were that the articles had to discuss a specific CSAM case rather than CSAM more generally, and be published in English, and be published in a Western country. The search resulted in 283 articles across the 12-month period. Many of these cases were removed due to articles not containing sufficient information to determine whether the offenses were specifically related to children due to the search term porn. A general focus on CSAM that did not detail a specific case or replication of the same article. The final sample was comprised of 56 articles and was reviewed by the first author of the study to confirm all articles met the inclusion criteria. So what were the results of the study? There were 43 cases of reported CSAM offending across 56 articles. Most cases involved one article, except 5 cases which involved several similar write-ups about the same case. Each case involved one offender for a total of 43 offenders. All offenders were male, except for 2. Of known cases, offenders ranged in the age from 21 to 82 years old, with a mean of 43.9 years of age. At the time of the crime commission, Angela, thank you so very much for your support. I so appreciate it. So much. Thank you. Thank you. The youngest offender was a teenager who was still in high school, but his age was not provided. Employment status was indicated in less than half of the cases. Very few of these offenders had blue-collar jobs, such as a butcher, bus driver, manager of a restaurant, with most of these offenders having white-collar jobs, surgeons, lecturers, former members of parliament, deputy principals, prosecutors, lawyers, police officers. Only 2 cases indicated some mental vulnerabilities, depression, and lacking emotional intelligence, while 3 cases referred to drug use, depression, or alcoholism. Of known cases, the offending was typically discovered through joint operations by authorities or tip-offs to police, undercover operations, search warrants, or through reports by members of the public. For example, there was a computer shop technician who discovered the images on the offender's device, while in another case, a teacher located the images on the offender's phone. In another instance, the offender informed a nurse, mandated reporter, that he was attracted to young girls. Acknowledging that not all cases provided a definitive number, the average number of images and videos that these offenders had was 1,670. That there was a minimum of 1 video per offender with a maximum of 207,000 videos and images. The child victims appeared to range in age spanning from infants to pubescent children, and there appeared to be a slight preference toward the female child. Most offenders were charged with 1 offense. These offenses predominantly surrounded access, possession offenses, followed by production, making offenses, and transmitting and distributing offenses. In only 7 cases, the offender was charged with an additional offense. These included drug and weapon offenses, sexual abuse and sexual assault offenses, and obstructing a police officer. Of all the known cases studied, all offenders had pleaded guilty except for 1 offender. About half of these cases had been prosecuted to date. Most, 42% of these offenders received a suspended prison sentence, followed by a non-suspended prison sentence and other sentences. In the remaining 11% of cases, the sentence was unknown or the charges were completely cleared. Criminal history was highlighted in 14% of these cases, and these prior offenses included CSAM, child sexual abuse, and drug offenses. So, the headlines of these articles in the media downplayed the abusive offending, despite emerging reluctance among those in policy and practice on using the term child pornography due to the abusive nature being trivialized within this term. All articles except 4 referred to child pornography. In fact, many of the headings of the articles simply referred to child porn or porn, such as child porn guilty plea, facing jail over sick child porn, police bust vile pervert with more child porn, an infant in his dad's porn videos. A number of headings even referred to the material as kiddie porn. Jail boss in court over kiddie porn. Doctor kid porn charges. These search terms and such terms are problematic as they fail to capture the exploitation and abuse within the horrific imagery. This could in turn impact how the public perceives the offending. It could also further trivialize and rationalize the offending by those offenders who already discount the harm of their offending. Only 4 articles appeared to refer to the abuse or similar in the headings using terminology that did not trivialize the abuse. Child abuse material, CSAM. Top policewoman had video of child abuse on her phone. Man who had child sex videos and pictures avoids prison. And woman avoids prison over child abuse video. Many cases referred to the offender's motivations for their offending. These cases appeared to concern downplay or dissociation, curiosity, and sexual attraction. Across most of these cases, despite the high number of guilty pleas, offenders appeared to mostly downplay or disassociate themselves from their offending. For example, in one case, the offender intentionally sent money overseas on various occasions for CSAM, yet separated himself from the offending, suggesting he would drink often and did not know what he was doing when he was intoxicated. Another offender rationalized his offending during the police interview, suggesting most men all fantasize about rape. A different offender suggested he viewed the material to relieve his own child abuse or to relive it. In one case, a school deputy principal indicated that he fantasized about the abuse as opposed to being into it, and that he was not interested in the abusive material because of his work, and that it revolted him. In other cases, the offenders suggested they were curious about the material, and they were just looking at it out of curiosity, to the tune of 1,600 pictures of curiosity. For example, in one case, the offender suggested that he originally accessed the material by accident when finding adult pornography, and that curiosity led him to look at it. In another instance, the elderly offender admitted to finding the material interesting. He was 82 years old, found it to be interesting. While in a different case, the offender suggested he searched for the material because he was bored. Finally, in other cases, the offenders were forthright and acknowledged their sexual attractions or admitted that they were excited and aroused by this material. For example, one offender admitted to the activity being illegal and that he accessed it for sexual gratification purposes. In another instance, the offender first lied out of panic, suggesting he accessed the material due to research in his job as a social worker, before being forthright in his admissions since that point. In these instances, the offenders had typically taken active steps by commencing treatment with an expert or indicating they felt guilt and shame and wanted to understand their offending, so they did not engage with the material again. Many of these articles that were looked at in this study noted some of the sentencing remarks spoken by the judge or the magistrate during the sentencing hearing. The judiciary made reference to the need for denunciation, the public condemnation for the unacceptable offending behavior. For example, one judge referred to the offending as vile conduct and that it was feeding a deplorable demand, while another referred to it as disturbing, gross, and vile. It was evident that the judiciary also made a concerted effort to communicate to the offender, the victim, and society about the harms of CSAM. One judge stated, "Children have been harmed to satisfy the perverse desires of people like you," while describing the offending as repugnant. Another indicated that the punishment needed to denounce the offending, given the market and demand of CSAM. Overall, the judiciary indicated that this material is not a victimless crime, and that acts of accessing such material leads to new material being produced. As one judge stated, such abuse happens because people are out there like you who want to watch these films. "92% of these offenders pled guilty, and 93% of the cases involved a guilty plea. Also, similar with previous research was the lack of cases that reported criminal history. While most offenders in the current study who had been prosecuted were handed a custodial sentence, these predominantly involved a suspended prison sentence. This finding was inconsistent with prior research. One reason for the current finding might be related to framing effects theory. This theory refers to the media's ability to influence public attitudes through the way they report on an issue. The frame of this reporting cases where most did not result in incarceration, is consistent with the media reporting of courts being soft on crime. The first theme, the headings of the articles downplayed the abusive offending, uncovered a negative finding. Most headings of these articles used the term child porn or kiddie porn. Scholars and advocates have made repeated attempts to highlight that the term child pornography undermines the gravity of the offending and trivializes the abuse. And this is from Save the Children in 2005. The term fails to capture the exploitation and the sexual abuse of a child that is depicted in this dreadful imagery. While it is acknowledged that headings are restricted by word counts, child abuse could be considered as an appropriate and more suitable option. Research suggests that the misconstruction of certain types of offenses through the media does marginalize these victims and obstruct victims from reporting these offenses. You often hear when someone comes forward in their early adult life or even their middle to late adult life where they actually admit to their sexual abuse as a child, Everyone wants to know why it took them so long to come forward. Until this happens to you, you have no idea how hard it is for these victims to admit what happens to them. Therefore, reframing the material as abusive may assist these victims in disclosing and reporting their abuse. Such reframing is also particularly important when there appears to be a disjuncture between social attitudes and the law in relation to CSAM. Research has found that some members of the public does not perceive any further harm is perpetrated just simply from viewing CSAM beyond the production of the material. Therefore, reframing the material as abusive could absolutely assist in both challenging perceptions among the public and assisting victims in coming forward to report this abuse. It was not surprising at all to find curiosity as another motivation for offending, particularly when CSAM offenders have been found to claim curiosity in both police samples, 40%, and clinical samples, 27%, for accessing this type of material. Finally, the motivation of sexual attraction to engage in CSAM was a predictable finding. It was interesting to note that these offenders had taken active steps to work through their offending compared with other groups. While the authors are not suggesting that these are the three definitive motivations for CSAM offenders, because this was a limited sampling, the report challenges misconceptions of why someone might engage in CSAM. In particular, the reporting of these articles may combat any stereotypes held by the public that only individuals with ongoing pedophilic tendencies engage in this type of offending, with the public noting the heterogeneity in the motivations behind offending. This heterogeneity also reaffirms the need for tailored treatment, particularly when risk and criminogenic needs can be diverse across CSAM offenders. So I thought that study was pretty bold, pretty thorough as well. When I read it, it was a 40-page summary on the study itself. And hey, CD, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks.
Alexa's talking to me. Yeah, I think there's way too many hidden offenders out there, and we would be floored if we actually knew all of the people who are actually lurking, not only just looking and downloading this stuff, but the ones that are producing it and disseminating it. I'm so sad about the 49ers and my quarterback. You guys can talk about the 49ers all you want, but the fact that he's hurt, I'm so upset. And I'm a Bears fan, you guys, but I like him. I like him a lot. He's fun to watch. So there was another thing that I looked up was the amount of child sexual abuse material and how much of it exists, and whether there are changing patterns in the amount of the new material being identified globally. In absolute terms, we can never quantify the amount of material that has been created or is in circulation on the internet, because new content is constantly being added, and only a portion of older content, some which predates the internet, has been scanned and uploaded. will have been identified and taken down. Even with the use of custom-made web crawlers to aid, notice, and take down CSAM, there is no guarantee that it will not be uploaded again. I love the Bears, Frank. In fact, I got my grandbabies, my 19-year-old and my 16-year-old are going to the Bears game this Sunday. We got tickets for them, and they are, the oldest one is an Eagles fan, diehard, and the middle one, the 16-year-old, he's a Bears fan. So I'm excited for them that they get to go to the game. So it's really hard to really say as far as how much of it's out there, but it is out there. And it seems to be they're just finding it more. The postal inspectors, when you talk about them, because they help the U.S. law enforcement agencies in obtaining these arrests, and it's just the cases are just incredible. There was a substantial increase in the number of arrests from 2,577 in 2000 to 7,010 in 2006 and 8,144 in 2009. This study did not go past that, but I guarantee you it is far greater than that now in 2022. The majority in 2009, the majority of CSAM victim production were girls aged 13 to 17. And overall, more than half of the producers arrested had committed a contact sexual offense, documented in the images that were taken. And I think that speaks volumes here. Now, whether or not Richard Allen is partaking in this, and this is a motive for Delphi, we don't know yet. We don't have enough information from the prosecution yet as to what is going on here. We do know that we have been led to believe that there is a CSAM component to this case based upon the Kleins and based upon what was going on with Anthony's shots. But we don't know for sure what that cog or what that bolt is that's going to connect them to this case, if at all. We just don't know. So the U.S. study of arrests for CSAM production between 2000, 2001, and 2006 indicated an increase in adolescent victims, but no increase in the proportion involving very young victims, which was a heartening thought to know that they had increased with the younger children. But a third sample indicated that the arrests for CSAM production quadrupled between 2000 and 2009. And it was attributed to cases of self-produced sexual images solicited from minors by adult offenders, which is exactly what Kegan Kline has been charged with, because he was soliciting images from adolescent girls and teenage girls to send him these images. Be safe out there, Danger Dave. And there is a note in this particular study that in 2009, Most of the youth produced images were distributed by youth who took the pictures of themselves and sent them to others. Hey, John, thank you. Oops. Sorry, guys. John, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, I agree. This is a subject that we can't cover enough, actually. Well, it's this magic mouse right here. It's an apple. And it says that it's magic. Well, it's magic. All right. All I have to do is touch it the wrong way and boom, it knocks me right out of StreamYard. I mean, literally just knocks me right out of StreamYard. Oh, CNC? It's not just men who do these offenses. That is, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. So sorry. So, it's been consistently noted as across these studies that these CSAM offenders represent a heterogeneous group who display wide variations in their sexual preoccupation with CSAM and their motivation to offend. And in relation to this, it has been observed that a fundamental problem with prevention policy in the criminal justice system is that it is largely based on stereotypical and often mistaken characterization of sex offender populations. For example, the common view of them as exclusively adult males who have a sexual orientation towards prepubescent children or pedophiles and who are strongly motivated to offend. While the majority of offender-related research has used samples of people convicted of technology-mediated abuse and exploitation, there have been a few studies drawn from general population samples as well as people who were seeking help. For example, an online survey of 8,718 German men found that 4.1% reported sexual fantasies involving prepubescent children, 3.2% reported sexual offending against prepubescent children, and 0.1% reported a pedophilic sexual preference. Men who reported exclusive use of CSAM were identified as a subgroup who differed from the contact sexual offenders against these prepubescent children, and men who reported both CSAM use and contact sexual offenses. A further United States study recruited 262 females and 173 males through an online survey to examine sexual interest and adverse childhood experiences. 6% of men indicated some likelihood of having sex with a child if they could get away with it, as did 2% of women. 9% of males and 3% of females indicated some likelihood of viewing CSAM on the internet. In offender samples, differences have been found between CSAM offenders and contact offenders in relationship to higher levels of internet use and lower levels of antisocial behaviors. Differences in empathy and evidence of compulsive or addictive behavior. most of the recent offender-related research has focused on the risk of the CSAM offender either having a prior history of contact offending or whether they will go on to commit a further contact offense. Hold on, you guys. I'm okay, you guys. Seriously, I am. I am. It's just a lot. This whole situation, this whole topic that we're discussing or we're talking about tonight um is, this online child sexual exploitation is an international problem, you guys. Um it's not just something that is local just to the United States or Canada for that matter. Um the production and the distribution technologies transcend national borders. Um, there's also a very wide range of varying laws against CSAM around the globe. And by the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2016, there are growing concerns about the sexual exploitation and abuse of children as new technologies create more opportunities for perpetrators. Although the total number of the children who have been sexually exploited or abused and photographed is truly unknown, the number of arrests for adult produced child pornography or CSAM in the United States practically doubled between 2000 and 2009. It resulted in more than a third of arrested producers of child CSAM, and in 2009 being adults who created the images of the children themselves. There is a limited scientific understanding of the characteristics of these children who are victimized in these CSAM images and videos, and the relationship with those who have done the abuse to them. It is not known how these factors may change over time or vary according to cultural contexts, such as ethnicity or poverty. There needs to be much more research done. But the existing research that's out there has provided us with some insight about cohorts of identified children or of images seized from the computers of offenders, but there are many unaddressed questions. More is known about perpetrators than victims at this time. Knowledge gained from this research can lead to a better understanding of online victimization and offending, thereby supporting more effective and efficient prevention and law enforcement initiatives to protect our children. The results of this research could have international impact given the professional networks that the researchers have in their respective countries and the relationships with NCMEC, or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, has the international law enforcement community. For example, there are many questions about long-term trends in the production of CSAM content and whether more actively traded content differs from non-traded content in victim or offender characteristics. Given younger children, Angela, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Thank you. I'm hanging in there. And given that younger children appear to be at a greater risk of this type of abuse by family members than from non-relatives, reflecting access and opportunity, is it also the case that exploitation content depicting younger children are more likely to involve familial offenders? Finding this association could help guide law enforcement investigations. As another example, evidence that child characteristics such as gender and age are related to distribution or other offending characteristics would support the development of computer algorithms to categorize large collections of child exploitation images. Cito and Ike's 2015 study, Predictive Research, has shown that the ratio of boy-to-girl content is associated with the likelihood of future sexual offending. So finding associations between child gender and other study variables would extend this research. I thought that was extremely important as well. One of the things that they talked a bit about these men who prey on children is non-criminal heterosexual men from the community show greater physiological sexual arousal to pubescent and prepubescent female stimuli as compared with male control stimuli of any age or neutral sexual stimuli. And it's just, to me, like I said, unbelievable that this find that with roughly 20% of community males who indicated in the study child pornography or CSAM use in a study on a problematic pornography use on the internet, and said they became addicted to these images. In sum, these findings suggest that a considerable amount of sexual interest in children is very, very common in non-forensic male populations. To date, however, the specific research rests on only a few smaller scaled studies that have explored self-reported sexual interest in children in community samples in form of sexual fantasy and behaviors. So, yeah, it seems that it's a lot more common than we ever thought. Yeah, CD, you're so right. They are. They're everywhere in our community. They're hiding in plain sight, and they could be anywhere that our children go. And they're not, I mean, that given that, and I get all of that our children are going to come in contact with them, but these people are also sitting there at home at night after everyone's gone to bed, and because these are family people. These are people who are married and have children, and some of them are abusing their own children and making content of their own children and then putting it out there for others to view. And it seems like that is a huge problem. And my point is, I get that this is a sexual deviant situation that we're talking about, but what is the money that's behind this, that's driving this? What kind of money are we talking that's changing hands here for this kind of content? And who is paying for it? I think it's very important for people in general that have children, and especially young children, to understand that even though this topic is extremely disturbing and very triggering and hard for many people to even try to talk about or discuss, that it's something that is absolutely important that you get some kind of an understanding of it so that you can protect your children the best that you can. Because, man, they did a study on Finnish males from Finland, 1,312 of them, reporting a prevalence of 3.5% of sexual fantasies or behaviors involving children under the age of 16 years old. It's distressing. It's distressing to think about. It's it is. I mean, that is just awful. That is just awful. I had a very good friend who was sexually assaulted at a Burger King. She was working there, and she was one of 7 or 8 people that were working in the actual store, and they were getting ready to close. And she had the duty of having to go back to and clean the bathrooms. And she went back into the women's bathroom and was cleaning it. And this guy came in and locked the door and sexually assaulted her in the bathroom. And then left out there was an exit, a fire exit door right by that bathroom, and he just ran out and left. They never caught him. And, it devastated her. I mean, as you can imagine, I mean, it literally devastated her. It was horrific. And she didn't want to, go back to work anywhere. She didn't feel safe out in public anymore. It was really awful to see what happened to her and how it destroyed her. I think CSAM use has recently gained increasing interest as a valid indicator of pedophilic interest And that's based on a study from 2010 by Schmidt, Van Hoek, Guy Carey, Mann, and Baines. And I think that they've just found out that there is a link there between it. I think it goes back to how often do they go from their fantasy driven life online and looking at these images and then wanting to actually go out and either live out the fantasy or make contact with a child and actually make the fantasy become reality. It sounds to me like that's not too far-fetched to think about that happening. Hey Dee, how are you? Hope you're doing well. So that was what I wanted to really, talk about tonight as far as the men who prey on our children. How common is it? It seems like it's quite common. And the stereotypical thing in our minds where we think these guys are blue collar workers or below, and they're extremely poor, drug addicts or, alcoholics or whatever. And they're the boogeyman living in the side streets and alleyways of our cities is not true. They're white collar workers and they're everywhere. And it's very scary. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about, I want to update you guys a little bit on some cases, and a little bit of case news that happened this week. I don't know if you guys are aware of this case or not, but in Palm Beach this week, and actually the article came out today, 4 years after the body of an infant was found in the ocean off the south coast of South Florida, an arrest has finally been made in connection with her death. And they called her Baby June, is what she was called, because obviously they did not know who she was. But the mother of Baby June was arrested this afternoon in Palm Beach County. And her name was Arya Singh, age 29. She's been arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Detective Christoffel stated that when she received this case, they had just got a lead generated from the crime lab about a potential father. We got the DNA from the father, and he was very cooperative. He knew nothing about this baby, however, she said. He knew that he had a girlfriend around that time that told him she had been pregnant, but had taken care of it. He was thinking she'd had an abortion. After the DNA was tested, it was confirmed that he was the father, and this led police to a possible suspect as to the mother. The detective stated that they were able to get her DNA from a piece of trash that she had thrown out and confirmed that she was the mother with a second sample. And over the next several months, investigators began building their case and obtained search warrants for phone and GPS records. They learned that she was at the Boynton Beach Inlet on May 20th in 2018, about 40 hours before they located the baby. She searched local news for days and months after. She did see the first articles on June 1st around 5 p.m., and she never came forward after all this time. After interviewing her, several friends and family members, it was determined that she was solely responsible for Baby June ending up in the Boynton Beach Inlet. And according to authorities, the baby was born on May 30th, 2018, was already deceased by the time she reached the inlet. She never named this little baby, and Baby June was found by an off-duty firefighter who saw the body of a female infant while out boating on the inlet. A medical examiner had ruled the case a homicide. It was determined that the baby was no more than 14 days old. She had a needle prick to her heel, and her umbilical cord had been cut. So 4 years later, and they found her mother and have charged her with murder. I'm going to show this picture of our Kayla Briggs, age 11. She's believed to be with an adult male that she met on social media. She has black hair, brown eyes. She's 4 feet 11, 120 pounds. She's 11 years old. And she disappeared from Clayton County, Georgia. And they are seeking the public assistance to bring her home. Her family believes that she left with an adult male that she met on social media. The possible suspect is believed to be in Macon, Georgia, or possibly headed to Texas. And let me get her poster, or her picture at least, up here so you guys can see her. 11 years old, you guys, and they're meeting these guys online, and oh, it's so scary. But there she is, 11 years old, and that's a picture of her. 11. And she ran off, it looks like, with somebody she was talking to online. And, you know, they groom them, and then they come and take them. And it's just, it's so sad. So sad. So we'll keep an eye out for our Kayla. I hope they find her sooner than later. So I know you guys are following the Idaho case. I don't not talk about it on purpose. You guys, I know so many people are covering it right now, but I'm following it. It's just something that I felt there was just so much coverage on, and I wasn't going to be one of those that jumped in on that coverage. But one of the things, I mean, I want to keep talking about it because I want them to find this person who killed these 4 people. I do believe that there's so much going on with this case, and there's a lot of misinformation. Just this week, we had a YouTuber that put out a fraudulent video of a young woman screaming and yelling to leave her alone. It was all a fraud. He even actually went in and changed an AP article online and made it read differently. Same guy. I guess he's been known for doing this before, but he ended up having his YouTube. He had over 200 and some thousand subscribers. He lost his YouTube channel. YouTube shut him down. And from what I understand, he may be arrested already. I hope so, because this is crazy. These people that come out around these cases and do this stuff is just unbelievable to me. But one of the moms of one of the University of Idaho victims has come out recently with the Today Show and said that she fears the case would go unsolved. And it's Christy Gonsalves said the state of the investigation has her feeling left in the dark. And her daughter is one of the students that was slain in the brutal stabbing attack last month. And she feels the case could go unsolved because it's 4 weeks out. She goes, I can't help but not think that this case could go unsolved. I mean, in all honesty, this is a possibility. There are a lot of unsolved murders out there. She had an interview with Today this morning, and she said that the state of the investigation has left her feeling left out and left in the dark. It's sleepless nights. It's feeling sick to your stomach. It's so many emotions that I've never, ever endured in my life, ever. Now you have to remember, for this particular mom, this has been a double whammy for her, because not only did she lose her daughter, Kaylee, but she lost Madison as well, which was Kaylee's best friend. And they had been best friends since they were little girls and extremely close. And so Kaylee's mom had that same kind of relationship and feeling with Megan, or with Madison, sorry. And so she's experiencing this twice over. And I understand to a point that why she would feel the way she's feeling. But again, they have to realize that there was a crime scene that was huge. They've got four brutally murdered people, 2 separate floors of a home. The physical evidence had to have been daunting for them to go in there and go through all of that. And then it takes time in the crime lab to go through all of that evidence and process everything. You've got to give them time. I hope that they have some sort of lead going on this case. But again, authorities aren't going to probably tell them anything. Given what we know about Delphi alone, these law enforcement officials don't just go to the families and say, look, we did this today. This is what we found. This is what we're doing. They don't do that. They don't do that. That's not how investigations work. And I do think it's important that they keep families in the loop to the best of their ability without giving away their case. But man, you got to give them some leeway there. But it's got to be hell, absolute hell on earth, to be a mother or a father and want this case solved and not know, you've got a person out there that has committed as a serial murderer by every definition, by what they've done. They feel helpless. They feel like there's nothing that they can do. And they're just, she says they're just running around for hours, just not knowing what was going on, what happened. They found out because people were calling them. And the sheriff didn't show up until 3 hours later. And that's the sad thing, is when families have to find out by other people and not law enforcement. But sadly, sometimes that does happen. And the public information officer, Robbie Johnson, for the Moscow Police Department, did tell NBC News this week that the case is not growing cold. They're really at a good place in the investigation where they have a lot of leads, a lot of places to go. We have a lot more to do, and we've collected a lot of evidence, and we're continuing to move forward with that. And of course, we've all heard about the 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra that they're looking for, that was noted in the immediate area of the residence during the early morning hours. And they want to talk to whoever was in that car because they feel they might have critical information to share regarding the case. And she went on to say that they do support the police and the work that they're doing to solve this crime, but that she and her attorney have been critical of how the department is communicating with the family of the victims. When asked if she found out about the white vehicle through a press release, she said she did, and that the police did not even send it directly to her. She said, my first thought just started being like, how long have they had this information? Where did they get this information from? Was it on camera? The United States just found out the same time I did, is how she feels. And as a mother, you can see how that would be unsettling or upsetting to her. Why would she find out this kind of information along with everyone else? But if you listen to Kelsey and you listen to Becky and Mike and Anna talk, that's exactly what was happening with them as the case was moving through these 5 years. I mean, when they went to the press conference in April of 2019, they had no idea that young bridge guy's sketch was going to be put out there that day until just a few minutes before that press conference. And Becky talked about it in her kitchen. She said she felt like she had been kicked in the gut. So the police department declined to comment to NBC News about the family's allegations regarding the communication. Good for them. I mean, I'm just saying, why haggle this out in the press? Again, it's not always a good thing to do that with a case. I know that there's a lot of criticism about this with Kaylee's family. I've read it on Reddit. I've seen it on Twitter. People are really starting to get angry with them because of how they are behaving, hiring an attorney and all this other stuff. But they're hurting, and they don't know what else to do, and they want so much to have the person who did this stand, trial, have justice. And the other thing that Christy's upset about is that the coroner also told their 17-year-old daughter graphic details of her sister's death over the phone. Now, if that truly happened, that to me is just horrifically unprofessional. Why you would ever tell a minor something like that? I mean, that should have been up to her family to tell her, not the coroner, and to sit there and do it in graphic detail. If she had no one else around her, that had to have been awful. So he did ask her if she was sure she wanted to know, and the daughter said yes. She didn't know why she said yes, but she said yes, and he proceeded to tell her. He should have known better. Professionally, he should have known better. But that's what's going on with the case in Idaho. So they are working on it. And we can only hope that they just continue to get more leads and more information. I got an article here. An ex-CNN producer pleads guilty to a child sex charge in a deal. This happened in Burlington, Vermont. A former CNN television producer pleaded guilty Monday in federal court to using interstate commerce to entice and coerce a 9-year-old girl to engage in sexual activity at his Vermont ski house. As part of the plea deal, the government will drop the 2 remaining counts of enticement of a minor against John Griffin, 45 years old, of Stamford, Connecticut. According to the plea deal, Griffin met a woman on a website during the summer of 2020 and persuaded the woman to bring her 9-year-old daughter to his Ludlow, Vermont ski home for illegal sexual activity. Griffin paid the woman and the girl to fly from Nevada to Boston, picked them up, and drove them to his Vermont home, where the girl said Griffin sexually assaulted her. Griffin was arrested on December 10th, 2021, a day after he was indicted by a grand jury. He originally pleaded not guilty to 3 counts. Griffin worked for CNN for about 8 years, but was fired after he was arrested, the network said last year. He faces a possible sentence of at least 10 years and up to life in prison when he is sentenced on March 20th, 2023. He must pay full restitution to the victims, an amount which will be determined by the court. He also faces a fine of up to $250,000 and other fees, and has agreed to forfeit a Tesla vehicle and electronic items, and to donate half of the proceeds from the sale of his Vermont home and the upcoming sale of a Mercedes vehicle into the court registry. He also faces a term of 5 years to life on supervised release with conditions including that he participate in a sex offender evaluation and treatment and register as a sex offender. He also cannot have contact with people under the age of 18, except in the presence of a responsible adult who has been approved by a probation officer, and is prohibited from being in areas where children congregate, such as schools, playgrounds, and theme parks, unless approved by the probation office beforehand. I could not believe that article when I read it. A mother took her daughter to this man to be abused. It's just beyond me. I mean, when you start going down these rabbit holes, you guys, and start looking at all this information and trying to find out about this stuff, I mean, you really feel like you need a shower when you're done, because it's just so disgusting. I don't know if you guys have heard of this or not. But 2 police officers were shot and killed in Mississippi this morning by a mother who was sitting with her young child in a car. The girlfriend of one of the cops that was gunned down in Mississippi has posted a heartbreaking tribute to the fallen officer. Madison Bartlett called Brendan Estorff, 23, her best friend and the most selfless man I know, alongside a series of stunning pictures of them. Estorff and Police Sergeant Stephen Robin, 34, were killed Wednesday after approaching Dr. Amy Anderson, 43, a local veterinarian, in her SUV in the parking lot of a Motel 6 at 4:30 a.m. Robin and Estorff saw Anderson was with her 10-year-old daughter, and after speaking with her for 30 minutes, decided to call Child Protection Services. Anderson then opened fire on the officers, hitting them both. Officer Robin died on the scene, while Estorff died in Memorial Hospital in Gulfport. Anderson also died of a gunshot wound to the chest. Police continue to work to determine whether it was self-inflicted. The child in the car was unharmed. Hold on a second. I'm going to show you pictures. Bartlett was alluded in previous posts to a prior partner, the father of her child, being narcissistic and abusive, credited Estorff with teaching her what it was like to be loved. She added that Estorff loved her daughter, Baylor, as if she were his own. You were patient, kind, and loving, the most selfless person I know. I don't want this life without you. She continued, I love you forever, Brandon. And she's just devastated. Anderson worked as a veterinarian at MedVet Mobile and Lakeview Animal Hospital. Her Facebook shows that she had 3 children and lived in Ocean Springs. It is unclear whether Anderson shot herself during or following the incident. Investigators initially said she had a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but later they discovered one of the officers had fired a shot when she initially opened fire. It was also unclear what happened to the young girl inside the SUV, who has not yet been confirmed to be Anderson's daughter. A former colleague of Anderson's told the Daily Mail that she had only been employed by the Lakeview Animal Hospital for 33 days prior to this shooting, though she had worked for many years as a local veterinarian. And they described Anderson as a very, very compassionate person who cried over a bearded lizard that was being treated at the practice. The source added, "It is hard to assess somebody who you've only known for a few weeks, but Anderson's actions are definitely not something they would have expected or seen coming." In an article from years ago, documented Amy's ascent into the veterinary profession when they were still relatively few female vets in the area. She had followed her father, Dr. Bob Anderson's footsteps. Prior to that time, Amy began her tenure working at the Vicksburg Medical Clinic. The institution had only ever had one female veterinarian. "I want to be a veterinarian since I was old enough to know what it was," she said. It appears to be the case that Anderson jointly filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2017 with a man named Royce Gerald Mize, with whom she shared a last name at the time. A woman can be heard saying 2 officers down in the early morning police dispatch call to the motel parking lot crime scene. As the tragic morning progressed, neighbors gathered to show support for the local police force. PJ's Coffee, a local cafe where the officers are known to gather, provided hot coffee for investigators and investigating officers, and community members hung a commemorative wreath honoring both fallen police officers. A local woman told WLOX that she believes there's positivity in numbers. We're a strong community, and I believe we have a lot of support and love from other communities as well. I'm heartbroken by this terrible loss of these 2 brave law enforcement officers, Governor Tate Reeves posted on Twitter. I'm praying for their family, friends, and their fellow officers and the entire Bay St. Louis community. Bay St. Louis Police Chief Toby Schwartz vowed a thorough probe would be conducted to investigate this case, and a tragedy had occurred here today to 2 of our finest officers, and their lives were taken. An officer was seen taking photos of the driver's seat of the SUV just a step away from bloodstains on the pavement and discarded emergency medical equipment. Other officers were looking inside a nearby police car parked in the Bay St. Louis neighborhood, a city of 10,000 people, about 25 miles west of Biloxi. On Thursday morning, a police press conference, Chief Toby Schwartz spoke in remembrance of Officers Robin and Estorff. "I'm not here to discuss the details of yesterday's tragedy," he said, saying he was instead going to discuss the lives of 2 heroes that sacrificed their lives for the good of society. He requested prayers for all law enforcement officers, families of the fallen, and officers and family of the assailant. They too are victims, and they too will need much love and the support of their community. I'm going to share with you guys some pictures. So hold on a second. I just thought it was awful. Two officers gunned down in the line of duty. It's just horrible. I have family members who are detectives. It's scary to know that they're out there on the street and this could happen at any given time. But this is one of the officers, and this is a picture of, this is Brandon Estorff and his girlfriend, Madison Bartlett. She's the one who posted all of the things about him and how she felt about him. This here is the picture of the offender. She's the one who shot them. And these are the 2 officers. Stephen Robin, age 34, and Brandon Estorff, 23. And there is another picture of Dr. Anderson and her children. So why she did this, I don't think we'll ever know. Hopefully someone may find something. She left a note, a letter, or something as to why she would have done something like this. But it's very unheard of for women to do things like this. So I don't know. I just thought it was a horrific story, and I wanted to cover it because of the officers. I feel so bad for her children who are left behind. They lost a mother. And it's just so sad. So sad. There is some good news I do want to share, though. There was Help to Find the Missing Act was passed by the House, and it's headed to President Biden to sign. And this act is basically was pushed through by the Gabby Petito's family. And hold on a second, and I'll tell you what it is. It's called Billy's Law, which would streamline the missing persons reporting process, was passed overwhelmingly by the House and is now being sent to the president's desk for signing. The legislation, which is officially called the Help Find the Missing Act, takes its informal title from Billy Smolinski, who was age 31. He went missing from Waterbury, Connecticut in August of 2004, and his mother, Janice, has been searching for him ever since. She has, however, faced countless obstacles and systemic challenges in getting any answers. The bill, according to its sponsor, Senators Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, authorized the funding for the National Missing Persons and Unidentified Persons System, NAMUS, which was created in 2007 by the Justice Department as a database the public can contribute to and access. Connects NAMUS with the FBI's National Crime Information Center. It requires that missing children be automatically reported to NAMUS. It requires the Justice Department to issue guidelines and best practices on handling missing persons and unidentified remains, and create an incentives grant program to help officials report missing persons to NCIC and NAMUS. U.S. Representative Johanna Hayes from Connecticut, who is also from Waterbury, championed this bill in the House of Representatives, and she spoke to Janice Smolinski about the hardships Billy's family went through. This was my hometown. This family had billboards, and they were putting together search parties, and every year on the anniversary, it would be in the newspaper, Hayes recalled on News Nation. And every time they got any information, they would try to publicize it. But it was literally just the family working on their own because the system was not designed to help find missing adults. Now, through Hayes, said the bill is going to be a game changer for families who feel lost in their search for their loved ones. Hayes said the Help Find the Missing Act wouldn't have passed without the help and support of Joseph Petito, the father of 22-year-old Gabby Petito. Gabby, of course, was reported missing on September 11th, 2021, and her body was found on September 19th, just outside Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. The remains of her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, were found in October of 2021, and Laundrie claimed responsibility for Gabby Petito's death through written statements discovered in a notebook found near his remains, the FBI said earlier this year. Gabby Petito's case made national headlines, but many families don't get that same treatment, Hayes said. I, on a smaller scale, have heard of people that have gone missing with families that are looking for them that never, ever make the news. The tragedy that happened to Joseph Petito's daughter gave him this platform where he had the ability to speak. There are so many families who never even get an on-air interview. What he did was speak for them as well. I'm so happy that they are going to get this law on the books. I think it was a good thing, and I'm hopeful that it will help change some of the ways investigations are conducted with missing adults. Because you know what? I'm just tired of hearing all the time they ran away or they just decided to walk away from their life. To me, that is a cop-out. That's a way of saying we don't want to handle this case. We don't want to look for this person. We don't really care. And I know people do that, but that is not every case. And you've got to at least give the case an opportunity. So it has already been passed, and it is it just needs to be signed. It's going to President Biden to sign it into law. So but anyway, but that's what I had for you guys tonight. I know it was a lot. I know there was a lot going on in the very beginning with a lot of the legalese speak, and sometimes that's really, really hard to understand, especially with me just reading it. But I hope you guys. Hey, Frank, how are you? Good to see you. I really do have a problem with the fact that not everybody gets their case on the air. They don't all get to be talked about the way we would like them to. And just with Quentin Simon, that was another update this week. His grandmother's been arrested. She's in jail, but it is not related specifically to his him going missing and ultimately being found deceased. It has to do with family court. And so we'll have to wait and see on that and how that's all going to play out. I just want little Quentin to get justice. That little boy didn't deserve at all what happened to him, and to be thrown away like trash in a trash heap by his own mother is beyond me. I just don't understand it. I never will. And I don't, and like I said, it's like with these cases that seem to go viral. It's just beyond me why it happens. And I'm just going to throw out a case. God, Maria, please help me with her name. What is the name of the young woman who was murdered by her friends in Mexico? Can you put that in the chat for me? Because this woman, it's been on the news, but it surely has not gone viral. And here we have the 4 college students from Idaho, and they're on every news cycle. They're everywhere. They're all over social media. And this case of this girl who goes to Cabo on vacation with so-called friends, and they, for whatever reason, she's completely stripped naked on her knees. Yes, Shanquella Robinson, and they beat her to death. And they videotape it and put it out on the internet. And that to me is, where is the outrage? Where is her case that's not being just screamed about and covered everywhere? It just doesn't make any sense. I just can't imagine doing that to another human being. Yes, CJK, I agree with you. May God protect our first responders so much. I mean, it's just, I have people ask me all the time, Kristen, why do you do this? How do you cover these topics 3 times a week? How do you go in there and talk about these horrible cases where these children have been brutally murdered? And what is it that drives you? What is it that gets you motivated to get up and search and investigate all of these topics? And I want to make a difference. I'm angry. I'm outraged. I feel defeated almost at times because it's like no one's listening. And yet everyone's listening because we've had so much coverage for the Delphi case and everybody is listening to that case. So how do we go about getting people interested in listening to the other cases? I've got wonderful people in here right now who are all content creators that are my moderators. True Crime Maria, Frank Meister, CD's in here. Who else is in here? I don't think Tech Dust's in here. But content creators that absolutely understand what it's like to cover something not related to Delphi and watch your subscriber count or views go down the tubes. People don't want to watch it or they don't want to listen to it. And it's just like everybody's interested in Delphi. And I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around that for this next year of 2023 and how I can bring about some of these new cases. Oh, Steve, True Crime Web, he was in here. Of course, my good friend. He's doing fabulous things with Evansdale because Evansdale didn't get the notoriety that Delphi did. I mean, it was in the news a lot in the beginning. And granted, you're looking at it years later. 10 years after the fact. But you got to keep those kinds of cases alive. We've got to keep people wanting to see those cases solved just as badly as just as badly as any of these other cases. So I just I get I get frustrated, like I said. But I do want to commend all of my moderators that are in here, the content creators that come in and support me 3 times a week. I appreciate you so much. We're going to work hard this next year on Evansdale and on Flora. I'm going to be covering both of those cases. I am going to cover new cases as well. And we're going to continue to try and make a difference in some of these areas. That's what my goal is as a content creator. My goal is not to necessarily have a huge following. What did you do, Goofy? Finn is sitting on my router. And I'm like, you need to get off of it. He's not supposed to be sitting on it. But to just make a difference in these cases. And I have a lot of support out there, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here. I will be here this Saturday, on Saturday night. I don't know yet what my topic is going to be. I'm almost thinking about possibly doing a live that might be fun. So I'm going to think about that a little bit and see. because I've not really done a fun live since I've had my channel. And I think I think we need a little bit of levity with some of the stuff that we cover. So, oh my gosh, you know, Frank, I totally get it. Delphi will always be my case. It's always my, you know, I'm going to be with Delphi until this person or persons are put behind bars. And that will be the way it is. But I think, I just want to talk about some different things. I want to start giving some airtime to some different cases. And so, but I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy for the holidays. I'll be thinking about all of you. Next week, it's up in the air. I think I will be here Tuesday night, but I won't be here Thursday or Saturday of next week. So, but I am going to plan on being live on Tuesday night. So I'm going to take some time off and be with my family for the holidays. But that's all for tonight, you guys. Thank you for everyone who donated tonight. Please make sure you hit the like and subscribe and share my videos so that more people get to see them. I don't know what's going on with YouTube's algorithm, but it seems to be really messed up right now. And other than that, I appreciate all of you. Good night, everybody, and have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you on Saturday.